In this episode of Carlie's Couch, we'll explore the connection between consumption and creativity, discuss some more ways to be mindful about what we consume.
Dun, dun, dun. Happy Monday, y'all.
Happy Monday. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you all for all your comments, your likes, subscribes, for sharing the episode. We appreciate all of the engagement and want to encourage you, if you haven't, to leave a rating, leave 5 stars, and send the episodes to a friend.
Or 2. But yes, we appreciate you. We also appreciate you for answering our questions from the couch, which today's is, when's the last time you flexed your creative muscle?
Somebody said, does crocheting count? Because I've been doing that all the time. And I would say absolutely yes. That is creative. And it's like just a good hobby of like something to do. It's almost, I can imagine that being like a meditation or type hobby.
For sure. And then someone said they
were... Wait. And sorry, do you know who said that? Who was it?
It was my homegirl that I did a yoga teacher training with.
Does she have a shop?
She doesn't do it for... She's in like the medical field. She's a nurse practitioner. She just does it for herself.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say I would like a little scarf. But
cultivating that joy in her life.
Yeah, that's great.
But I think I know some other people that I can send you. The next person said they wrote a song. So that's cool.
That's hard, actually. I often want to do everything else. So, like, I'm like, man, I want to write music. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then as soon as you start writing, you be like, like, everything feels like, man, like, you know, the 3rd grade rhymes, like, we trying to write a poem. And I'd be like, this ain't really doing what I wanted to do. But that's kind of something I kind of want to explore. Because I'm like, it really is a science to, like, how you write. And also, like, not thinking too hard. Like, how do you express certain things without it being, like,
overtly,
I saw the trees, and you were in the breeze. Like, you're like, no, that ain't it.
What kind of music would you want to write for, or any?
You know how it's harder, like, genres are kind of blur, like, everything's just whatever now, but just like a vibey. Okay. You know, I don't know, like, because nothing I can really, like, sing, or, you know, not something like a Frank Ocean-ish, or like a little vibey, the internet, that kind of thing.
All right, I like that.
Something where you could just be a little creative with it. Cha-cha-cha. Hit him with the yeah.
Should have did a ball change with that. Someone said cooking. Those are my people, because I definitely get creative with cooking and have a lot of fun making recipes and baking. Although I will say I've been so busy, gratefully, with work and stuff lately, I haven't been able to cook as much, so I'm trying to get back on that.
I can tell when people really see cooking as a creative thing too, when you pay attention to, like, how your plate looks and, you know, how you lay things out. When I did used to entertain and cook in 2010-ish to 12, like, I remember, like, being so careful about, like, let me wipe this little extra drip off this side of the plate, and let me make the green beans make a little, you know, shape and all that. So kudos to the people who really care about the presentation, because that is important. And then lastly, somebody said they did a photo shoot. Now, do you know if they were the model or
they were the photographer, but they also did the creative design for it.
That's fun, too. It's always fun to put a world together and then turn that into art.
What about you? When's the last time you flexed your creative muscles?
In my mind, I wanted to ask you first, and my mouth was not moving fast enough.
I was racing you.
And I knew you were going to say,
what about you?
I was thinking... And it seems like there should be so much, and yet I'm trying to think of something that's not related to work. But work is the space where I can be creative with. This is so boring, but like coming up with strategy, like very quickly. There's folks on my team, some of my favorite people who are on my team who work with me. They're really, really good at thinking long term and like, what's the plan and what do we need to get in order to make this plan come to life. And meanwhile, it's very easy for me to be like, yes, but for like what we need right now or what we want this client to do right now. What about boom, 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 boom? And so I think like putting together, like coming up with content ideas and strategy might be the boring last thing that I did. And outside of that, I might even say like lately, I think I've been trying to just throw my clothes together a little more random, not random, but just like exploring a little bit more with it, doing a little bit more. So maybe things like that, like in my personal life.
I was about to say, I was thinking, and I'm like, I actually do a lot of creative things, and that feels really good. So also clothes, having fun, more fun with fashion. I tried a different color of eyeliner, so that was cool. But I will say, I always make flower arrangements for the crib, so like I always have a lot of fun doing that. And then whenever I was in Turks, I did a whole butter photo shoot, and I always have a ball, and I did some stop motion videos. So I've been having fun with content, and
That's
like,
good.
Yeah, I love taking pictures of things. Lala laughs at me because she's like, you're a things. You take pictures of things. Most people take pictures of themselves. You're a things person. Like, you like the outside world. And I'm like, oh, I do. But I got like a perfect little mermaid shot of a butter on a rock. And then the wave came over. And I was like,
world.
You know, it was cool.
A whole new world of moisturizing yourself, period. Well, look, every time I be killing that butter because I wear a lot of shoulderless type shirts. And it's been so hot in LA like the last week.
They've been cooking.
So I'm actually trying to learn how to take less, and if I could spread it farther. But like I'll put a big glob, and then I'll only get to like right here, and I'm like, dang, then I gotta get another glob. That's why I go through like 2 a month. Anyway, all that to say, like the other day, like I was walking to the metro to go somewhere downtown, and like just having the butter on, it's like I could tell my whole like aura was like shining because I saw myself in the mirror. I'm like, damn, I'm glistening out here. But then I felt kind of embarrassed because I also I got in an Uber one time and I sat back and I was like, oh, because they had leather seats, and I was like, damn, looking like Soul Glow in here. And I was trying to like wipe it casually. I was like, I don't got nothing to wipe this with because I have no clothes on barely. And I was like, man, when I get out, he gonna be like, all that grease she done left in my car. I almost wanted to say something, and I was like, nah, let me just walk out. But anyway, all that to say, definitely look into Carlie's butters because they're so good. And people ask me all the time, like, wow, your skin looks good just because it has a little glow, but it really is a good moisturizer that like sits on your skin.
Thank you.
So that's a good creative muscle, I guess. Like putting together scents and putting together products
and making
like
things. Like it's a whole like I'm like playing with product ideas. Like it's so much fun to me. I love it. Like I'm a little scientist. I have a hairnet on. I have my little gloves. I have everything. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's why I get irritated
the worst if somebody
when
has
people cook and all their cooking videos. I have a hair in my eyeball, but whenever they're doing all these things and they are not doing all the proper sanitary precautions, it really bothers me. So just so y'all know, if I ever like, it's me being cute making my own butters if my hair is not in a hairnet and I don't look like a lunch lady, because that's crazy. I have an apron.
There should be a post to see like this is really what it is because I care about y'all.
I have that. Yeah, that's what I said on one of my TikToks. I'm like, I'm looking like a lunch lady, but y'all don't want hair in y'all's butter because that's gross. So anyways, so do better, business folks. Speaking of creating, I thought about this episode idea on a overconsumption is killing your creativity. That was my thought, and it was because it's a personal experience, and I feel like I'll get all excited and I'll do these photo shoots for the butters and I'm doing all these things, or I get excited about something for myself and I'll go to do this, and then I just start consuming. And by the time I've consumed so much, I don't want to do anything. I don't feel creative. I feel drained. And I was like, damn. So I actually thought about this a long time ago, because that's usually what happens is I have all these grand plans and ideas of making stuff, doing things.
Oof, I can identify with that too.
And then I start like, I'll just open my phone and the next thing you know, I don't feel like doing shit. I'm not posting anything. I'm not putting out anything. And I was like, there has to be a relationship between how much we're consuming and what we're putting out. And I feel like overconsumption is really killing my creativity. And so I'm here to fight back. We're here to talk about it today.
Well, in the example you just used, I identify with that because let's say I get a good idea and or not even an idea, but, you know, sometimes it hits you where you're like, let me think of some biz dev stuff. Like you'll just kind of want to have a brainstorm session or like one of my notebooks, I have a whole notebook where I'm like life hacks and like AI and like what are some things I could try to figure out how to do. But you'll do all this research and looking up stuff, and then it's like, whew, like I gotta sit down now. And so in that instance, it's almost for me less of that type of consumption blocking creativity and more of on the action, like physical part of creating. It blocks action. Overconsumption can block action because while I'm sitting here thinking about a million things and getting all these ideas, it's like, or I could have just said, for 10 minutes, I'm gonna write a couple things down and then start doing something or making a plan about what to do, because it can be tiring to consume. Even if you're just like reading something or whatever, like your brain is working, you feel tired, you feel like you're, you know, expending your energy, which you are. What you expend your energy on is going to affect how much energy you have left to do other things, right? And so the more we consume, the less we are actually doing something.
Yep. And that's perfect, because creativity, people also think like painting or something artistic or writing. But in essence, it's any pursuit in which you're actively making something happen. And so in my head, by participating, so creating a thing, producing an experience as opposed to taking something in. And so thinking about it as energy inflow versus energy outflow. And when you have so much inflow, you can't outflow because it's like you're inundated. And so then my next question is like, okay, so why do we do that? Why do we consume so much?
In that example, we may be over consuming because of a fear of failure or wanting to avoid failure. And so we feel like we have to learn, research. So that could be one thing. Another could be that it is a way to procrastinate. It feels like I'm doing something when I plan out a course and do all these things. And then when you don't never do nothing with it, it's like, okay, that
happened.
Yeah.
Or didn't.
Yeah. So it's also sometimes you're spending so much time doing a thing or trying to get ready or get yourself in a space, and really you're procrastinating instead of hopping into it. So not letting perfect be the enemy of the good in that case. What other reasons?
So I like those two, and I'll say like the why maybe behind that is like, so I like that you said the false sense of accomplishment. So sometimes like the action faking, like, oh, I'm gonna do this research thing and I'm gonna do this, and you research and you feel real good about it and you tell people, hey, I'm gonna do this course on this thing, and then you don't actually do anything.
I done told people I'm gonna do so much stuff. But research I was really gonna do on hip hop stuff, all kind of, because you have a lot of interests. Like we know y'all have a lot of interests. We have so many interests.
So many.
And it'd be like just a whole lot of empty, half done, third done stuff, and it happens.
And it happens. And some things aren't meant to be more than that. And some things like in the moment, but then you lose it and you're not interested anymore. But also I think like we consume so much because dopamine, like we're in a space where like it spikes our dopamine. Like we get constant feed. We're in this thing where we wake up and we want to be on our phone, or we want to watch the news, or we want to do anything. And I think society's only like built for consumption. We're in a consumption society. But also then we get that false sense of accomplishment whenever we're consuming so much. I would argue also a false sense of connection, like whenever and maybe real connection. So I'm not going to say that, but like people want to be on socials because they feel like they're like, oh, we're going to watch this TV show with all of Twitter. Or we going to do this together. Or look at her story. She's
community
on vacation.
Consumption.
Yeah, it's community, like thinking that you're going to do that. I think those are all huge reasons.
And then are you assessing that those are not good things to consume for those reasons?
Good question. I would say for action faking, it's probably not a good thing. Like just to do stuff to give yourself a fake sense of accomplishment, a fake sense of connection. If it's not,
man, nothing beats that real sense of like you actually did some stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. So I don't think that those are good. But I also want to say I don't think all consumption is bad. I think that we consume because we want to learn. Like we voraciously consume a lot of things because we want to read, we want to grow, we want to learn things, we want to figure out better ways to do things, we want to grow our business. And so I think a lot of people consume for that, to see new ideas. You can get inspired by flipping open magazines, if you're into fashion, like you get inspired a lot of times by things you see too. So not all consumption is bad.
Right. It's that over part where it's like, how much of your day or time or energy are you putting into consumption versus creativity? Because like you said, consumption is that's a part of life. Consumption can be reading a book. Consumption can be watching Netflix. Consumption can be social media. So all of these things are consuming information. And when you're doing a lot of that to the point where it affects you in some ways that we could get into, now is where you might need to assess.
Yeah, and that's the point. So it's like it can be great, but too much, like moderation, right? Moderation, especially if you notice you're not taking a lot of actions, that could be a great sign, like that you're over consuming. Or you're like me, you move forward with an intention to do a thing, and then you start consuming and you don't do the thing.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. That's a sign. What is a sign for you if you have a different one where like you might be over
doing too much?
Yeah.
I know that I'm over consuming. So I'll use a TV example. I'm over consuming on watching TV or watching shows. And I know that while watching it, or while any consumption, I guess, you realize like, you're actually not really enjoying it like that. Especially when you got into like your third episode, and, you know, after a while, if you have thoughts of, which I do often, if you have thoughts of like, I kind of could be doing something else. Or if you have thoughts of, I'm using this because I need to numb out, that's actually probably not a good sign of how you're consuming at the time. And often I'm using that time trying to like rest, but it's not exactly restful.
And I like that you said restful, because think about how your energy feels after you're doing a thing. And so I think there's also a balance of like exploring to feel connected with the world, to learn and to notice what's going on, because it's important to be present with those things. But also, if that's all you're doing, if you're doom scrolling, if you're just stuck on watching news stories and things for hours, that's probably also a sign you should probably disconnect.
And also to what you're saying there, like really pay attention. Again, we talked about this in the last episode as well, but like pay attention to your energy as you're spending time and giving attention to things, because you are probably over consuming if you are spending a lot of time with something, and if it's not bringing you joy, if it's not like kind of bringing you up as far as your energy, etc., then those are actually activities you probably should be doing less of, if at all, in your life. And so it's like, well, what could you be doing in those spaces? And now think about those things that do kind of add to your energy. What does that look like? It really looks like accomplishing things, completing things, maybe being outside, like things that are not typically like consuming. And so just for your own good of your own energy, consumption can be kind of draining, especially if it's not around like research or, even that at all.
And I think some people would argue like, oh, I learned so much, I'm growing, and that's how I see things and I get new ideas. But also like, it's draining. And so too much inflow can block outflow. So it can also kind of disconnect you from yourself. Because if you have a slight idea, but then you start researching before you've even kind of thought through your idea, how do you know what's yours? And
now
what
it's just
consume?
somebody else's thing.
Now it's just somebody else's thing. And so like, even when we start episodes, we try to write out our own ideas and questions and things before then researching, because it's important to make sure you're coming from self, asking what questions would Carlie ask about this thing? How can I learn more, as opposed to just always starting from that? But also I thought this was interesting when I was researching how consumption affects creativity or output, like input affects output. It said that we get decision fatigue, because everything we do online is a decision. Every time you open up your phone, every time you scroll, every time you decide to read a tweet, you like a tweet, you're doing these things. And then it becomes so strenuous for our brains to constantly be deciding things all day. So no wonder we're making poor choices in other areas of lives, because we're burning out our brains on stuff that doesn't even really matter sometimes.
Also, with multitasking and your attention going in so many different directions, it can almost take away from that feeling, that ability. Like when you are sitting down to create something, like let's say art, like pure creation, so much stuff going on is going to take away from you, like really being in that moment, being in that art, like focusing there, having your energy there. And so the less you consume, it's almost like the more brain power and the more intention you can have towards whatever your activity is, which is why sometimes, like even with exercising, or if I'm working, or if I'm doing other things, like I don't like to listen to music and read, or like I don't like to have the TV on while I'm working. And I know a lot of people do that. And for a long time, I was real judgy about a couple of people that I know who, like, if I was trying to do a work day with them, and then it's like, well, why is ESPN on right now? Like, and they would tell me like, this is how I work. And I hear you, and I'd be like, but have you ever tried to like just look at what you're looking at and work? And to me, that's just so distracting. And like, maybe because I'd been through that, where I'm like, I realize like stuff actually takes longer, because now you're like stopping and looking at things and all that. And so take out all the multitasking, which can come from the consumption of media.
And even thinking about how that affects everything else in our lives, like not only our output, but relationships, your work. What quality are you bringing whenever you're never fully present in anything that you're doing?
I want to say another thing about consumption. I think you did kind of touch on it, but one thing to be careful about with overconsumption is, you did with looking at TikTok. You need to be very careful about your thoughts and being able to discover, like, what do you think? What do you actually want to do? What do you like? What do you want to see come out of a thing or whatever? And when we consume, when we watch TV, when we listen to music, when we then it's like a lot of times we reflect those things in our own art. And like now, one of the things that I complain about often too is like everything kind of sounds the same. Everybody looks the same. Like everybody's face looks the same. Everybody's content looks the same. And like everybody's making the same videos, the same everything. And it's like, wow, maybe if we weren't consuming so much, there would be some variety, some actual creativity, like what you would do, how you would dress, what would you do in a video? Instead of it's like, oh, somebody's talking about how cutesy and demure this is, and now everybody's making the same video. Right. Like, it gets kind of uninteresting to me.
Yeah, and it's cool because technology connects the world, and we're able to learn about things and grow, and we can research. But then also it is funny, especially, and I'm just laughing because I saw, and see, that's funny because I'm like, I don't even know if it was a TikTok or Instagram, whatever it was, but it was like a Target denim jumpsuit thing had went viral, and then I saw like 3 people at the same thing with it on, and I'm like, it's cool, but like also,
yeah, it's like, dang.
There's
That's
no
why you
original
be mad
thoughts.
when you see stuff because you're like, oh, everybody about to do this now. Like,
damn.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is like with holistic, I'm very intentional. I'm not researching other butter companies. Like I know people do that. Like I went and looked at, because it's like free marketing, right? The people, like the big companies who pay and see their websites, and I look at how things are laid out, but I'm not modeling my shoots after them. Like that doesn't inspire me. I don't feel good about it. I want this to feel like me, like whenever you have the thing. And so I'm very intentional about not trying to mimic anybody else's brand, even though there's a million butter brands. That's cool. They're not me, and that's fine. But like thinking about in those spaces, like what are some ways, and in the world and in life, like what are some ways that we can actually disconnect from overconsumption and kind of maybe get back in touch with ourselves and increase our output?
You're asking me how to do that?
Like what are some ways to be more intentional about our own consumption?
I would say to meditate instead of watching a show. So in times when you are sitting down and just watching a thing, or like sitting down and just consuming, try instead to be like, okay, well, if I can sit down and watch TV for 2 hours, can you sit down and be still for 20, 30 minutes? Because you at least don't have the excuse of like, oh, I got things to do, because you was about to sit down and watch TV. Like, don't trip. Like, if I was about to sit down and watch 3 episodes of this show, like, I don't have no excuse to just go sit down with myself. And when we sit down with ourselves, we more often like think of the ideas that are coming to you, the thoughts that are coming to you. Having more time kind of reflecting on what's going on in your own body and mind, I think is a great way to start kind of disconnected from needing consumption, because now you're seeing what's going on here that you're probably actually not addressing. Like, it's almost like sometimes sitting down to just consume stuff is putting our own things in the back burner and not giving them a place to like kind of connect themselves and come to fruition. So I would say that, like, go meditate.
I think that that's huge. We don't give ourselves time to be still and intentional time without consumption. We talked about gut health and how if you continuously eat food, your body can never heal, and it leads to dis-ease and everything else in your body. It's the same thing with your mind and your heart and your emotions.
If you're never still, like, how do you even know like what ideas and creativity like is in there for you to do something with?
And so start there. I would say that's the first step. And then it's funny because I was thinking similarly in the sense, like, I think we should assess also. So you're starting there, you're having stillness. After that, then start to assess, like, what are some areas in your life you're over consuming or maybe not producing enough. I think that those correlate. And then pick, like, replacement activities. So think about, like, where you might be watching a show for 3 hours. Maybe the first 30 minutes you're going for a walk, you're exercising, you're sitting in nature.
How about saying this? Go to the gym.
You're doing something that you love. Like maybe you're actually cooking the meal instead of Uber Eating or whatever for that Uber Eating for that time.
Or maybe you're Uber Eats off of my phone. Hey. I cut the whole Uber because I was like, dang, before I left Uber on there, because I'm like, well, I need to get around.
Now they have Eats on there.
Well, it's always been on there, right? But I was like, well, let me just take it off immediately. And then like all I do is use Lyft now. But one thing to what you just said, though, that's interesting is that oftentimes we are using this overconsumption, like we said, to procrastinate from those other things that we need to do. You know, you need to go for a little walk. You know, you need to hit the little gym. You know, you need some fresh air, right? And it's so weird because it's like, well, why do we not do those things? Because those are also things that sometimes they don't feel awesome until after you've done it. But it's so much better for you. So I would say practice. What's the words? Like practice just like doing the thing, like not giving yourself too much time to like think too much. Yeah, like try to have a more immediate action. In times when you're consuming, I feel like those are times when we're kind of stationary and we're just somewhere. So it's like, all right, let me do something.
Switch the energy flow.
Yeah, switch the energy flow. And then like come back to that. Maybe another thing that could be helpful too is just giving yourself some times to do stuff. For me, it has never helped to, like, let's say with curbing social media use, it doesn't help to say what I can't do or make rules about what I can't do. But it does help me when I say, all right, on a Post-it note on my computer today, these are the times that I'm going to check social at 12, at 2, at 5, and then maybe after a certain time, it don't matter. And if you try to stick to that, it's like, oh, you have a time that you look forward to. And other times, if you do hop on, you be like, let me put it down. And it also helps you be aware of how much time you're spending as well, especially on those things that seem to be automatic and they just become second nature. So maybe give yourself times of like, okay, every day I watch one episode of the show I'm watching. And now with that other time, it's like, dang, I kind of got to do something else. So what are you going to do? Because everybody complains about
not having enough time.
Everybody complains about having all these things to do and not enough time. And I always say I have so much time to do whatever I want to do. And lately I do. Like I read, I watch TV, I get my work done.
Spend time with friends,
doing
work
podcast
out.
shit. I'm going I'm doing gym, I'm doing this. Like I do everything. And it's a matter of doing it.
It's like that. It's that I don't know the name of that Justin Timberlake movie, but wherever you have like the time coins.
Oh yeah. That was a great movie.
Imagine. And I don't even remember the whole thing, but I just remember that they had like coins. Imagine if you were literally
it was their life was time.
I know, but like I'm just saying, like imagine if your time was like dollars or coins or whatever, and you had 24 each day. How are you spending them?
Is that really how you want to spend it?
Yeah, is that really? Because you handed 6 to TikTok, which I mean, like some of that is cool. I like TikTok, it's cool, but like if we're being intentional and we don't want to have regrets and we want to feel good about the things that we're doing and we want to be able to produce or at least to have quality relationships. Like a lot of times even people are like, oh, like spending time with their loved ones but on their phone the whole time or not paying attention or not being present at work.
If you're going to do something, do it. And if you're going to consume.
And choose. Like they do not coexist.
And maybe another off point from that too is spend time in consumption of your actual family and friends and people as well. Like kind of be all in those moments and use that as a time to consume, because that will, I'm sure, improve those relationships. One last thing that I'm thinking about in regards to this with creativity as like the subject point of this is that a lot of times we tell ourselves that I need to consume in order to be creative. And that's not really true. Of course, we can get inspiration. I like every once in a while, like, I haven't done this in a long time actually, but like if you go on like an art day or something, it's kind of, it is good and it can be inspiring to like see some different things, some different perspectives. And yet, if you are in the arts, for example, if you write, if you are a painter, if you do things like that, right? They say that that's still a skill. You're not really supposed to wait to be inspired to create. Creativity is something you have to just do. And so it's really about spending time on that. So if you are creative in that way, or if, however, like creativity, whatever that means for you, consider also, instead of, like we said, thinking about how you can not consume as much, think about how you can create more, even if that means you sit and stare at this paper a little longer. And like maybe you're sitting there like, all right, I'm going to spend a couple of hours creating. And you have a pen, and you might not get to nothing, but like that actually is what's going to actually sharpen you to get to that final point of what you want to do, as opposed to sitting around, waiting around, blah, 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 blah. And then one day maybe you think of an idea. Like, just do it.
Do the thing. And I love that. And that's part of Julia Cameron. She have a quote from her. When a creative artist is fatigued, it is often from too much inflow, not too much outflow. She has a book called The Artist's Way. If you haven't read it, get it. She challenges people to do morning pages every single morning. When you wake up, you write 3 pages in your journal, 5 pages. It doesn't matter. You can literally write, I don't know what to say. I don't want to be here. This is stupid. Right. But you're writing and you're doing the thing. And so I think that if you take anything away from this episode, take what Lacey said. Go do the thing. Don't wait to be inspired. And even writing that is like getting the block stuff out of your brain, and then you get to the stuff, like get to the yummy stuff.
Yeah, you have to get that out, and now that idea comes to you, and or you start typing something that then turns into something. So that's really a hard thing to do, especially if you are used to things coming easily to you, or if you know kind of what you want to create, but like you're having trouble getting there, you have a block. You have to kind of go through that. You have to get stuff out, and then you get to a point.
So this week, look at your consumption habits. Make sure you're taking time for stillness, and then think about how you can schedule in more creative output time. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to show up. That's all that matters. Consistent output time for yourself in the things that are important to you. Hit us at Carlie's Couch. Let us know what you learned from this episode. Look, I'm excited and also reading my damn
dang,
self.
I might need, let me see what I can do instead of one of my hours of TV. What could I do instead?
The possibilities are endless, and we would love to hear how you're going to spend yours. We can check back in on the next one on how Lexi about to spend hers.
Real. That's real. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Talk to y'all later.
Bye, y'all.